Homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share a talk that blew me away. Okay, don't look at the screen. Like, don't look at the top of the screen anyway, because I want to do a little exercise. I'm going to read the first part of it and try and guess when this talk was given. Okay. Never since the Civil War have law and order been so gravely challenged in this great land. And the challenge is many-sided. The majority of Americans who are law-abiding and who desire to live in peace and harmony with their neighbors have been shocked and dismayed by the rioting, the anarchy, the arson, and the pillaging in our cities and smaller communities. Life and limb among the innocent have been imperiled. The protection of property has been disregarded. Even sacred things have been desecrated. This condition has nearly reached the point of insurrection, and its causes still persist. Okay, you can look at the top of the screen now. Now, if that doesn't parallel our own time, I don't know what does. This is a talk called The American Travail by Elder Mark E. Petersen in 1967, October General Conference. I wasn't looking for this, which so many times is the case. I'll be like researching something else. I was looking at 1967 because I wanted to see what General Conference talks were like after the 6-Day War. I wanted to see were there any messages there? Was there any hints to anything? What did they say after the 6-Day War? The 6-Day War was really important. That happened in 1967. It happened between June 5th and June 10th of 1967. And let me just, in case you're not familiar with what it is, so this was probably, from my understanding, this is probably the second most important war in Israeli history, the way that they would view it. The first one being when they became a state in the first place, but then this one. Why? Okay, this is in Britannica. 6-Day War, also called June War or Third Arab-Israeli War, or Naksa. Brief war that took place between June 5th to 10th, 1967, and was the third of the Arab-Israeli wars. Israel's decisive victory included the capture of the Sinai Peninsula, Gaza Strip, West Bank, Old City of Jerusalem, and that's really what makes it important. The outcome of this war important is that they basically got the Old City. That's what the Jews want, because they want the Old City to be their capital. That's where the temple would be built. If they're successful in building the third temple, they want to do it on the Temple Mount, and that's in the Old City. And Golan Heights. The status of these territories subsequently became a major point of contention in the Arab-Israeli conflict, and that continues today, all because of the 6-Day War. Okay, so that's what I was initially looking for, and I happened upon this talk. And by the way, so far I haven't really seen anything noteworthy in regards to General Conference and the 6-Day War. But if I'll still look into it. If something comes up, then I'll share it. So this is interesting. This is interesting because this 1967 talk sounds exactly what we've been going through for the last few years. So what is he referring to? Okay, first of all, Mark E. Petersen, who is he? In case you don't know, he was a member of the Quorum of the 12. Here he is right here. Here's his picture. Okay. What was going on in 1967 that he was referring to? Well, from what I can tell, it probably has to do with this right here, Detroit Riot in 1967. Detroit Riot of 1967, series of violent confrontations between residents of predominantly African-American neighborhoods of Detroit and the city's police department that began on July 23rd, 1967. So this happened just shortly before October General Conference and lasted 5 days. The riot resulted in the deaths of 43 people, oh my gosh, including 33 African Americans and 10 whites. Many other people were injured. More than 7,000 people were arrested. That's a lot of arrests, and more than 1,000 buildings were burned in the uprising. Holy cow! The riot is considered one of the catalyst. Okay, the riot is considered one of the catalysts of the militant Black Power movement. All right, and then I have a couple other things here from history, although I don't know if I needed this one per se. Um, yeah, not this one, but this one has some pictures. This is on history.com. There you see, I guess, the National Guard coming in. You can see the burnt buildings here in the background. Huge plume of smoke. Police. Lots of smoke. Oh my gosh. Looks like there's a volcano going off back there. Um, a lieutenant. I guarantee he's not doing much. Uh, he he's just looking all awesome for this picture, but it's the enlisted that are actually doing the heavy work. But anyway, that's just my own personal view. Um, Firefighters, a really uncomfortable looking stroller. We've come a long way as far as strollers go. Destroyed shop fronts. Oh my gosh. I don't know if this is like from fire itself, or like maybe if this is after some demolition to kind of, because I can't believe that these houses are like completely gone and just like the chimneys remain. But maybe they haven't done any demolition yet or clearing of that area. I don't know. Anyway, so you get the point. There was that going on, which is really interesting because we've had similar things happening recently. In fact, okay, 1967, okay, 1967, exactly exactly 50 years later, okay, in 2017. 2017, do you remember what happened in 2017? This right here, okay? Timeline of protests against Donald Trump. In case you forgot, as soon as he was elected, everyone lost their minds. Here's a map of it says locations of protests against Donald Trump on November 9th, 2016. And when you zoom in, it doesn't bring the locations with it, but you can see all the red dots here: Salt Lake, Vegas, Omaha. Notice that Kansas and Missouri aren't part of that. Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, LA, right? I have some more pictures of that. It's in this NBC News article. More than 200 arrested in DC protests on Inauguration Day, and 217 people were arrested. That's an interesting number, 217. But here, you see similar scenes, maybe not as bad as the Detroit riots, but a lot of fire, a lot of smoke, and it wasn't just in DC. I know that there were other places that this was going on, cars burning and stuff like that. So it's interesting that this happens exactly 50 years later after this talk is given. And then I don't need to remind you what happened in 2020, right? We also had 2020 that everything went crazy. There was literal anarchy that was happening. I should have pulled this up. Do you remember this? Let's see. What was it? The Seattle Chaz zone? Like the Capitol Hill. Let's see. The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, that's what it was called. Where literally they took over a portion of the city where police were not allowed in. Of course, it didn't last, that long, but it did happen. And there was anarchy going on. There was literal anarchy that was going on at this time. Okay, so let's get back to let's get back to this. Okay, um, so I'm gonna kind of like read this over again. America is in travail. Now, picture both 1967 and picture now, about 50 years later, and how that it's like describing the same thing. America is in travail. Never since the Civil War have law and order been so gravely challenged in this great land. Yeah, law, the police. Um, Not just the police, but but yeah, think about that. And the challenge is many sided. Many evils threaten our civilization with collapse. Could this have been some kind of like 50-year warning, maybe, or just a 50-year foreshadowing? I don't know. The majority of Americans who are law abiding and who desire to live in peace and harmony with their neighbors have been shocked and dismayed by the rioting, the anarchy, the arson, and the pillaging in our cities and smaller communities. He could be referring to other things going on as well. Remember, this is also the same time that hippies started coming on the scene. Um, if you're not familiar with that, I'm sure everybody is. I don't know so much about the my international viewers, but hippie, also spelled with a Y at the end, during the 60s and 70s, of a countercultural movement that rejected the mores of mainstream American life. The movement originated on college campuses in the United States, although it spread to other countries, including Canada and Britain. The name derived from hip, a term applied to the beats of the 1950s, such as Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac. Sorry, I'm not familiar with that. Who were generally considered to be the precursors of hippies. Although the movement arose in part in opposition to the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, 1955 to 75, hippies were often not directly engaged in politics, as opposed to their activist counterparts known as yippies. I've never heard that before. Youth International Party. Yippee. For heaven's sake. Hippie lifestyle. Hippies were largely a white, middle class group of teenagers and 20 somethings who belonged to what demographers call the baby boom generation. And yeah, this right here, middle class white teenagers and 20 somethings, they also kind of played a hand, didn't they? Uh, I'm not going to name the group, but a certain group that's caused a lot of problems that, you know, um, their logo has flags and, oh my gosh. It's always I don't know what it is. I think, so this is my theory. I think that you have these normal kids that are living normal lives. They have the comforts of life. They're living just an average, decent life, mostly in the suburbs, but they want to be something more. The narcissists among them that want to be special. They don't want to just fit in with the crowd. They want to do something exciting. They want to stand out. Um, I think that's. I could be wrong. That's probably oversimplifying it, but I think that that's kind of what it is. Is like they don't want to just feel normal. They want to do something incredible, something that's worthwhile, and they want to stand out. They want to feel special. So anyway, hippies. Here's the History Channel. Though the anti-war movement had begun on college campuses at the dawn of the 1960s, so at the beginning of the 1960s, that's when anti-war movement had begun. More and more people joined the opposition to the war in the latter half of the decade as television brought images of its atrocities into American homes in a new level of excruciating detail. The hippie counterculture, which emerged in the late 1960s. So now we're talking about the time when this talk is being given in the late 60s, which emerged in the late 1960s and grew to include hundreds and thousands of young Americans across the country, reached its height during this period of escalation of American involvement in the Vietnam War and subsided as that conflict drew to a close. So here's, the wonderful pictures of who these people were. I guess some of them still are. Um, is it just that one picture? Anyway, I just wanted to use this mostly for the picture, but this is an article from The Atlantic, and this is actually from September 1967. So this was published just right before General Conference. This is what the world looked like at the time of Mark E. Petersen giving this talk. This is what was happening. People that look completely normal. You know, there's no chaos going on in their lives. Anyway, okay, okay. Um, Life and limb among the innocent have been imperiled. The protection of property has been disregarded. Even sacred things have been desecrated. This condition has nearly reached the point of insurrection, and its causes still persist. This perfectly describes these last few years. This perfectly describes these last few years. Uh, as we have been told repeatedly by enforcement agencies, lawlessness in the form of almost every kind of crime is growing at an unbelievable rate. Irresponsibility is multiplying under an erosion of character and integrity. Public confidence in political administration has been shaken by repeated examples of maleficence in office. And yet, without stability in administration, government itself becomes insecure, and well-being of the citizenry is threatened. Marky Petersen is probably rolling in his grave if he's not resurrected already, uh, seeing what's happening now compared to 1967. Right? He thought it was bad back then. Uh, Things have gotten worse. Immorality is another evidence of our backsliding, as is drunkenness, and the diseases that accompany immorality now appear in epidemic proportions. Oh, you have not seen anything yet, Elder Petersen. This immorality feeds upon pornography in films, on the printed page, even in advertising materials that goes through our postal system, in violation of the law. Women's styles approach the obscene. You have no idea. Just wait. People are losing respect both for the laws and for those who make an attempt to enforce them. It has become popular to be a violator. Some courts of justice seem to have forgotten the purpose of their own existence. Yeah. All these forces and more combine to threaten the solidarity of our homes and families, which always must be the basic units of society. These forces promote infidelity. They nurture discord between husband and wife. They become a source of conflict between parents and children. They encourage immorality in the rising generation. Some parents set an example of serious delinquency to their own offspring and excuse, if not encourage, their repeated delinquencies. It is true that most people are good people, and for this we are thankful. But it is also true that the evil influences all about us are taking a toll beyond anything we can afford. Our best homes are being invaded by evil influences. Every family is threatened. We have reached the point where decency, at last, must take a stand against indecency and corruption. We can no longer permit uh, avaricious peddlers of filth to corrupt our loved ones, nor allow gangs to make our peaceful neighborhoods unsafe. You know, evil has definitely penetrated everybody's homes. You can't watch TV without it being there. You can't get on the internet without it being there. It's so much worse now than it was back then. Um, okay, the attack must be repulsed. Our cities and towns, our rural areas, and our villages should never become battlefields, nor are streets unsafe for pedestrians traversing them after dark. We can no longer stand by as criminals carry on their nefarious work. We can no longer permit the deliberate weakening of the arm of law, and that's happening right now uh, in a very real way. The deliberate weakening of the arm of law, which originally was intended to protect the innocent. We must no longer coddle and protect the predators who sap the vitality of our democracy. We can no longer stand for the corroding infiltration of filthiness into our homes and communities. Righteousness must survive. The Almighty gave freedom to America based on obedience to the God of the land, who is Jesus Christ. Our freedom will continue only as our righteousness survives. All right? Our freedom will continue only as our righteousness survives. And I know that there's a lot going on right now that has to do with freedom. And you have to wonder about these things that are happening that are threatening freedom. You know, well, I guess you don't have to wonder. I guess you can say with certainty, if it wasn't for iniquity and the iniquity that's permeated all of culture, a lot of these things probably wouldn't be happening. That's taking away freedom. One of the big things right now is fighting for the religious freedom, protecting religious freedom. We just talked about this in this last general conference with Elder Rasband. That's a big topic right now. Elder President Oaks has talked about it quite a bit. Elder Rasband, I know that it's a big concern with the church. Right now, you go to the church website. I just did a video about this, and I would encourage you to watch it. No, what am I doing? I want to go to the church website or to the church newsroom. Let's see, church newsroom. Right now, right here, this article, religious leaders from New York visit church headquarters, and they talk about various things, including religious freedom. It says they met with church leaders and they spoke at BYU's annual Religious Freedom Conference. Okay, so yeah. Our righteousness can exist only as we obey the source of all righteousness, who is Jesus Christ. Every force now corrupting America is a form of Antichrist. Okay, here we go. This is Antichrist. This is the great and abominable church. And I'm not trying to make like a big debate, but you know, or if you're new, maybe you don't know, I'm not waiting for a one-man Antichrist to come on the scene before the second coming can happen. I'm not. I can't find it anywhere within our doctrine. No one talks about it. This seems to be mostly basically an idea imported from the rest of Christendom, specifically the evangelicals. They're so like in love with the idea of an antichrist because that's their interpretation of scripture, and not all of them believe that. It's usually the ones that are all into the 7 year tribulation period and timelines and calculations and da 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 da. You know, getting everybody scared that there's going to be a man that comes on the scene that you'll need to get microchips in your brain in order to, you know, buy and purchase things and whatever. And then there's going to be people, well, it's in the scriptures. No, it's in your interpretation of the scriptures. When you listen to church leaders, when you go through all the different church material, there is no backing of this idea that there's a one-man antichrist. There are many antichrists. Anyone who's against Christ is an antichrist, and there's notable antichrists, like in the Book of Mormon, like Nahor, Korihor, and there's modern ones as well. But as far as like a big bad guy that's been prophesied of that has to come on the scene, no. But we do have the great and abominable church, right? And this just backs it up even more, this talk. Look at this is what Antichrist is. Every force now corrupting America is a form of Antichrist. Criminality is Antichrist. Immorality is Antichrist. Drunkenness is Antichrist. Rioting, pillaging, and anarchy likewise are Antichrist. Robbery, assault, and murder are all Antichrist. Deception, duplicity, perjury, and covetousness are Antichrist. This is the church's definition of Antichrist. This is one of its definitions. This is what Antichrist is. Okay, the distribution of pornographic material that corrupts the morals of young and old alike is Antichrist. And so is every other force destructive of the high principles that have made America great. I ask you, how Christian is America? How deep is your own Christian faith? Would you fight for it? Do you believe enough in Christian teachings to take a stand for cleanliness and high morals, for honesty and integrity? Disciplines of the Christ-like life will save our civilization. Uh, and by the way, I don't think that this is going to happen. I think that what's going to save our civilization is the second coming. I think our civilization is basically long gone. The abandonment of Christian principles has brought this nation to its present unfortunate plight. Only a return to Christ can correct our condition. Politics cannot do it. And I feel like too many people focus way too much on politics as though that's the answer to everything. No, it's doing this. It's being on YouTube like me. It's just being you, a person, being a good example, not following the crowd, the people that want to do that which is bad. It's living your life in an exemplary way and sharing that with others. And if you can do it on platforms like this, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, then do it. If not, then that's fine. Just be a good example to the people around you. This is how things change. Set an example. Encourage other people to be good. It's not going to. Okay, so look at this. Higher taxes will not do it. New laws cannot do it. We have tried all these and they have failed. We have tried every man-made device with only a worsening of the condition. It is time now to try God's way. The irreligious need not scoff at such a suggestion. Which among them can show how their godless philosophy has offered any remedy for our solution or for our situation? What have they gained by turning their backs upon Christ? Rejection of godlike principles has caused us to reap the whirlwind in riots, criminality, drunkenness, immorality, broken homes, and a rebellious new generation. These people right here doing this with their fists and the eccentric appearance and the shouting and protesting and da da da. This was just the 1.0 version. Now we have these people 2.0 right now, and it's even worse. Although I don't know, this is pretty bad, but now it's even worse. I have a few more. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but let me just skip down. Jesus Christ has appeared in our day here in the United States of America and has appointed a modern ministry. He has revealed that our American form of government was given by inspiration, that he raised up the founding fathers of our country and by divine power set our ship of state upon its way. And he has said that if we will but obey him, he will preserve both us and our liberty. Now, this is just a side note. I've been talking about this recently, the Council of 50, getting ready for the political kingdom of God, which will become a reality in the millennium. And I really do think that establishing America and America's form of government is a precursor, or maybe like the first phase of implementing the kingdom of God, because I think that the kingdom of God, Christ is not going to be a dictator. He's going to be king, but there's going to be laws that are fair for everybody. People's rights will be protected. People's beliefs will be protected, right? And so I have to think that basically the Constitution is the forerunner of the millennial Constitution. And when I say that because that's what they tried to do in the Council of 50 when they were planning the political kingdom of God. They were going to write a constitution. So I assume that there's probably going to be a written political law, a constitution during the millennium. Okay. And it's probably going to be based on the American Constitution. Out of all constitutions in the world, the majority of them are based on the American Constitution. In fact, I should have looked this up. How many countries base their constitution on the United States Constitution. Let's see, the worldwide influence of the Constitution of the United States. I'll just go with this. Yeah, I'll go with this one. The United States Constitution has had influence internationally on later constitutions and legal thinking. Its influence appears in similarities of phrasing and borrowed passages in other constitutions, as well as the principles of the rule of law, separation of powers, and recognition of individual rights. But I'm wanting like a number of how many other, because I saw like a figure one time that out of so many countries. Okay, today of the 192 independent nations of the world, all but a very few have such a constitution and are committed to having one. Let's look at this. What countries have adopted constitutions that are based on the U.S. Constitution? Man, I'm not going to be able to find it. But you'll just have to trust me, or you can look it up yourself. The majority of them. The United States led the way with its Constitution, and it was the Lord that gave America its Constitution. And so not only has he prepped the United States and got us all familiar with the Constitution and that type of government, but also essentially the rest of the world. So think about how the Lord has politically affected the entire world and prepped the world for a constitutional government during the millennium. Not that we're going to be electing the king. Christ is going to be king the whole time, but maybe the way that nations and just like the government of God, there still will be some kind of elections for like local leaders, or maybe there'll be some kind of Knesset or Congress of some kind that, you know what I mean? I don't think that Christ is just going to be dictating everything. I think that just like the Lord likes to do, he wants us to come up with our own solutions and work things out. But with him being there, he'll be able to guide us. But you get what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to happen. But I think that the Constitution was a precursor to what's to follow in the millennium. He can and will bring peace to America if we will return to him. But no mere lip service will do. He requires the hearts of men. So in other words, Zion. If America now will turn to him in humble obedience, the light of heaven will shine again upon our land. Our stains will be washed away, and man to man will brothers be, and peace will come to every heart. Principles of righteousness will save and preserve a nation. The founding fathers of our country understood this fact and warned that our nation never can survive if, in the words of Washington, it, quote, disregards the rules of order and right which heaven itself has ordained, end quote. I think that's it. Okay, so very, very fascinating talk. I didn't read the whole thing, but it's so fitting right now. You basically could have given this talk in this last conference and no one would have known that this was written in 1967. You would have thought, oh, yeah, that's talking about the things that have been happening recently. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. Put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share this, and I'll talk to you guys later.